Horrifying drive stories. About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion pretty late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on the roads with dense bushes and trees on either side, the real creepy ones you see in movies. Anyway, I had been driving for about 45 minutes when I realized I was starting to get really tired. You know how sometimes you just suddenly become really tired out of nowhere? I knew I wasn't going to last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park and safely sleep. After driving for a bit more, it became clear to me that I wasn't going to find a place to pull up, and my tiredness wasn't going away either. So I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road onto the grass, behind some bushes, to try and hide my car from anybody else who was going to come past. By the way, the roads weren't empty. I came across a car every few minutes or so. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22 p.m., and then fell asleep. Sometime later, I was awoken by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock and it was 11:50 p.m. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was still extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around and simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and it was now 12:40 a.m. This time it really freaked me out because the sound didn't stop. A thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car, but why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rear view mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now, at the time, I thought it was the damn hook killer. You know, the one that scratched that couple's car and then slaughtered the guy when he got out to investigate. F that, I thought to myself, so I got the hell out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, where I saw a car, parked off to the side of the road with the driver's side door open wide. I slowed down just enough to look, if anyone was in there, but there wasn't. Then I looked in my rearview mirror. I didn't see anything, and all of a sudden, this guy comes sprinting around the corner. He starts screaming at me, shouting stuff like, hey you, get the F out of your car, now! I noped the F out of there and sped off. I never saw the guy again. Moral of the story: don't effing sleep on the side of a deserted road.
This happened to me when I was 8. My family decided that, for our vacation this year, we'll visit my mom's parents in Jaipur, Rajasthan. It was an 8-hour drive and we wanted to get there before sunset. We wanted to avoid traveling through Bangar after sunset. Well, things almost never go as planned. We were already running for hours late. To give you an idea how spooky the village is, you're not permitted to enter Bangar fort past sunset on government orders. As we approached Bangar, our car headlights were the only thing visible in the dark. I realized not one car had passed by in over 2 hours and we were in the middle of a desert. The only sound we could hear was the steady hum of the engine and the occasional gust of wind mixed with the cracking of the radio. We were already starting to regret having left this late, hoping to get to our destination as fast as possible. Suddenly, a loud bang shattered the silence, causing our hearts to race. The car started vibrating like crazy. Me and my brother grabbed onto the door handle. As the car came to a halt, I could see my parents' faces go pale when they realized we were stranded in the darkness with no sign of help in sight. My dad tried to get the car going, but the engine wouldn't budge. With no other choice, we decided to spend the night in the car and wait until morning to seek assistance. We all huddled up together and tried to get some sleep, but no one could. I watched the stars in the clear sky. I wanted to go out and stare at them, but my dad knew better. My mom and my brother were already asleep, and my eyes were getting tired too. My dad stayed up, watching the highway, which at the time I didn't understand why. I could hear sounds of animals in the distance and sometimes even feel something close to the car, but the locked door made me feel comfortable. Suddenly we see light crouching behind us, and as I turn, I see a pair of headlights approach and stop next to us. It was a small passenger bus, with a few passengers. I felt relieved knowing help has arrived. The TT gestured us to come out and get on the bus. My mom and my brother were up and my brother tried to open the door, when my mom stopped him frantically and I saw my dad gesture that we didn't need help and they should go on with their travel. Next, I see the passengers and the driver step out. They walked to our car, trying to wiggle the handle and asking my dad to come out so that they could help us get to our destination. My dad refused again, this time with a bit more determination, trying to hide his fear. They stood there staring at us for a few minutes and then finally decided to leave. They hopped in the bus and after a few minutes I could see two red lights disappearing in the dark. I did not understand why my dad refused help from the only people that had come by and possibly the only people we'll see all night. As the sun came out, we saw another car stop in front of us. It was another family and they helped us get back on the road and we made it to my mom's parents. After showering, we all sat down to have breakfast. When my brother mentioned that we could have been here a lot earlier and mentioned the bus, that's when my grandpa mentioned, there's no bus. The only one that went this route crashed into a tree a couple of days ago, killing everyone including the driver. His friend owned the bus and he knew that he had not received the payment from insurance to replace the bus. It was the first time my parents had heard of this, but somehow they knew that getting out of the car would have been a grave mistake. Also, the bus had crashed almost next to where our car broke down. Subscribe for more.